Hello everybody, and my name is Nari Carrera, and I'm one of the moderators in the Future Classroom Scenario course, along with my colleagues Ben, Caterina, Sergio, and also Tassos, my colleague Tassos, who is here next to me today. Very warm welcome to all of you who are joining from different places in the chat. You can still share in the chat where you're joining from. We are very happy and grateful that you're joining today, Friday evening, 5 o'clock here in Brussels. Thank you for that. Before we start, just to let you know that your microphone should be muted. So in case you want to speak or in case you want to ask any question to Maria Jesus, you can do that at the end of the presentation. My colleague Tassos here will be gathering the questions, and we will relay those to Maria Jesus at the end of the webinar. This webinar will last around 1 hour, more or less, and you will have around 10-15 minutes at the end to ask questions, apart from the questions that you have already been posted on the Padlet during this week. So you're now working on Module 4. You have been working a lot. We have seen very nice learning diaries and activities, so congratulations on that. And Module 4 is about learning activities that you can teachers use in the future classroom scenario. Besides, you have also been learning about different activities that you can do in a flipped classroom scenario, such as infographics, posters, or stories to talk about the importance of visual and collaborative tools in the classroom. And to talk about this topic, we have a great speaker today, and I'm very happy and honored that she's with us today, Maria Jesus.
My pleasure, as usual.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here. Maybe you know her already, but for those who don't, her name is Maria Jesus García San Martin. She is head of the Online Teacher Training and Social Network Department at the National Institute for Education and Technologies and Teacher Training, INTEF, which is much simpler. In the Spanish Ministry of Education. She holds a master's degree as a teacher at University Rey Juan Carlos in Madrid, and she's also online teacher training at the Virtual School by Castilla-La Mancha. Over the last 30 years, she has been a teacher of English at different levels in private centers and also in state-run schools of languages. And she has coordinated the multi-educational project for INTEF and the online editing web pages with Dreamweaver course at Mentor Virtual Classroom.
Nair, that's enough. This is horrible to be
presenting
such a long way.
Continue because it's really worth it. It's really worth it. So currently, she's writing her Stop and Learn English blog, which link I share on the chat. So feel free to stop by and have a look. And from time to time, she also contributes to Ser Conducta, which is a professional social network on media literacy and audiovisual language, the Observatory for Technological and Education Innovation, and a wide range of internationally known educational collaborative projects. Maria Jesus is amazing. I don't know how you do it, but congratulations.
It's my pleasure being here, and I thank you very much for such a detailed introduction. It's a pleasure for me to be here, and I really thank you every time you give me the chance to come share with you all. And as Nair has said, it's really wonderful that on a Friday afternoon, which is 5 as well in Spain, in Madrid, we are here gathering together to share some educational tips. I'm not such an expert as Nair has said already, but I do like to share what I do with my students at university now and at other levels of education in former times.
You're very humble as well.
Not really.
Thank you. Okay, so whenever you want, Maria Jesus, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Right, what I'm trying to do in this coming hour is just giving you some tips and some pieces of advice about some things that I do. So it's in class, right, in my lesson. So it's not an expert. If you are expecting an expert, it's not going to be an expert webinar at all. I hope I will be able to share with you just some experiences that I've carried out in class with my own students, and it's activities about flipping the classroom, and it's also tips about activities, flipped activities in future classroom labs. But I must tell you that I do not have a future classroom lab. I wish I'd have a future classroom lab like the one you have in Brussels and like the one we have in Madrid at the Ministry of Education, but where I teach, I do not have that kind of lessons. My classroom is just a standard classroom full of computers with tables nailed to the floor that I cannot move. So I've got to use my imagination and try and flip in a standard common teacher way, okay, which is, I guess, what most of you do when you are teaching as well. So in order to start with those flipping lessons, I'd like to share you some visual, collaborative, easy tips and tools that foster effective collaboration or aim at fostering effective collaboration. And for that, I've chosen educational infographics. Okay, so I'm sure you all know about infographics and the way infographics can be used in education, but I'd like you to have a bit of background from my own experience and to start from the beginning, from scratch. So let's start talking about what an educational infographic is, okay? In general, infographics are a very, very visual way, very visual means to represent and deliver knowledge. But delivering knowledge is not what we are supposed to do when we are flipping lessons. But however, it's a way to deliver knowledge too, and it's a very visual way. So that's something a bit more innovative. Delivering knowledge visually, it's a bit more innovative than just delivering knowledge as such, okay? Because it's not only a question of delivering knowledge by the teacher himself, but the students themselves can also use educational infographics as a means to deliver their knowledge to their peers. So that's collaboration already, peer-to-peer learning. So using these kind of tools in a creative way, in an innovative way, they become the main agents of their own learning. And in that way, we are also, without really them noticing much, we are also making them autonomous learners. And that's important when you are flipping lessons, okay? So, and let's also take into account that we must admit that at the moment, because maybe we are in a hurry, maybe we've got lots and lots of things to do, we are all very stressed out when teaching, and they are also very stressed out when learning. Most of the times, neither teachers nor students read very carefully. I'm not saying that it is a good thing not to read, but obviously it is not, but we must admit that nowadays we are all reading very, very quickly. We are going not from bottom to from top to bottom, sorry, but from left to right in a very quick way, and we are not really ready to spend too long to be reading detailed long text. So this is why infographics, as they are very visual, they are very, very effective and good means, in my opinion, to pass information on to the students. They are attractive, they are motivating, they catch students' attention, and it doesn't matter if it is from the teacher to the students or from student to student, but they are visual, and that's good. So something else that I think is one of the goals that we must take into account when using infographics, why are we going to use infographics in lessons and to flip learning, to flip lessons, is that we must seek for our students to be able to develop a range of key competencies. And it is necessary that they learn a range of strategies that help them to filter information, to critically evaluate information, to organize it visually, so that when they learn, they do it more effectively, And when they deliver that information to their peers, they do it in a more organized way. And infographics help them achieve those goals too. They can be a very nice means to let them achieve those means too. And in order to do all these, in order to orchestrate all these, we must take into account the ingredients for a good infographic, in my opinion. Okay, as I said at the beginning, this is not any expert webinar, but it is the opinion of a teacher that uses infographics when teaching, and my students use infographics when learning, right? So in my opinion, the ingredients for a very good infographic, to develop, design, and structure a very good infographic, at least it should contain the ingredients that you have there on the screen, okay? A good title. The title for an infographic must be very clear, clear and direct, because that's what you see first thing on the screen, right? When you visualize the finished infographic. Maybe you can accompany it with a subtitle, highlighting the subtitle in the infographic, so it motivates the information viewing, but the title must be clear, direct, and illustrating what the infographic conveys. Then the second ingredient is the body of the infographic. That's the core of the infographic, okay? So it's the key part of the graphics. It's got to be full of any type and every type of visual information, right? Sometimes text, but most of the times good enough images that allow people to associate what we want to convey with the infographic, right? So we can include all types of diagrams, for example, such as bubbles or bars or graphics as well, maps, tables, you name it, text, icons, drawings, anything that you think it is visually going to convey what you mean people to understand, but with your infographic, but not overloading it, okay? The body must be clear, attractive, visual, but not overloaded with too much information, because that's not what we're looking for when we want our audience to concentrate on the infographic, right? Then the next ingredient is an explanatory text, obviously, right? Sometimes we will have to add text. That's going to be inevitable, right? Because sometimes the icons or the diagrams or the pictures that we visually incorporate are not going to be enough. So sometimes they will need support text for that graphic information, but only support text, in my opinion. The explanatory text must be that, supporting what we visually want to convey. So because it is support text, it must also be very specific, and it must also be very, very clear. So it should help contextualizing the necessary information, or maybe completing the graphic information, because otherwise it would be the core of the infographic, and we don't want that, okay? And something very important that we tend to forget when designing, not only infographics, but any other kind of digital objects in general, is the source. Where we are getting our graphics from, where we're getting our information from, all that reference to sources, okay? Because everything is invented, okay? We do not have to be reinventing things and trying to be original all the time. There are lots and lots of information and textual support and graphics and icons and visual aids on the net. And they are ready for you to use, but you've got to be careful, and citing and attributing is essential. So you must be generous, and if you're gathering information from the net to develop and design your educational infographic, you must cite an attribute. You must reference the source where you are getting from your information. Otherwise, it would be selfish on one hand because you are not giving back what you are gaining from the net, but on top of that, it could be even illegal. So it is important that we set an example for our students and we cite and attribute the sources when we are designing any kind of digital object, and in that way we are also teaching them to cite and attribute. And finally, the license, okay? The authorship, it's your own infographic. You may well write your name under it, but it's also important to license it adequately. So you must decide if you want others to share it as well, if you want others to reuse it, readapt it, and if you want them to do it in the same terms as you are sharing your own infographic. Because then people will do the same for you, okay? It's not a question of going around just simply copying and pasting, but readapting, reusing, and coming up with an open educational infographic for your flipped lessons, right? So now that we have the main background, the main context for all the principles of designing a nice educational infographic, let's see what potential, in my opinion, infographics have in a class, in a lesson, just a lesson, simple lesson. So that's why I'm providing you with some lesson proposals, and I'm also setting an example, citing the source where this proposal comes from. This proposal that I'm providing you with this afternoon comes from this collaborative project that is still being carried out in Spain. It's called Info EduGraphics, and in this collaborative project set up by a team of I think it was 5 or 6 teachers from different educational levels in Spain, they give didactic sequences of how to use infographics in education at different levels, and the project also provides examples of ready-made infographics by different schools, different teachers in Spain that generously publish them there, okay? So if you have a look at that project, it is in Spanish, but you may well translate it with your Google Translator into any language nowadays. And you are going to find lovely lesson proposals. But what I'd like to share with you now is just a sample proposal that you may follow if you like, okay? Before, sorry. Before actually starting to making students design their own infographics, I think there should be a previous stage, okay? And that's where your role as a teacher comes in, okay? Your role as a teacher in a lesson proposal at the very beginning, previous stage to design, should be to clearly explain the goals. Why are they going to design an infographic, what educational aims you want to achieve with them, and give them fully clear explanations so they understand why they are using this tool in order to carry maybe a wider project, okay? So you must also explain to them, if it is the first time that you use this kind of tool, what an infographic is, and maybe even provide them with examples, because analyzing other examples of already made infographics is inspiring. It's going to help them to understand the visual principles that I mentioned to you in the previous slide. It's going to help them understand better why using an infographic and not any other kind of digital object. And then based on those examples, you can debate, you can open up the flipped lesson maybe with a debate about why infographics are useful, what elements infographic should contain. So that previous stage, which doesn't really have to be very long, but it should be clear and concise, opens up the possibilities, the potential of students being motivated by designing their own infographics. Then the next step in a lesson, in this proposal, is the team management. I mean, you can design individual infographics, fair enough. You may have a class of 25 people and you tell them to design 25 infographics, okay? But that's not flipping because that's simply an order for you or an instruction for you by you as a teacher, and the students just apply it, okay, abide to it, and that's not what we're looking for. We want them to be the center of their own learning, but we want them to develop more key competencies, and teamwork is another key competence. So an idea may be make teams, set up teams, maybe 3, 4 people, and assign roles to them. And if you even want to take a step ahead, you can ask them to make the teams themselves and organize the teams themselves. But it is important to organize the teams with different roles. And to organize the teams with different roles, you must set up teams in which students have different profiles. So I think it is important to set up mixed up teams. You know your students, you know what they are like, so you might play a game to set up pairs or to set up 4-member teams in which you know that different kinds of different people are going to match the roles that you want them to have. For example, one proposal in the organization of roles for these teams might be that one of the students takes the role of the coordinator, okay? So the coordinator is the one that leads the workflow when designing these infographics. The coordinator must be somebody that encourages his peers to do a good job. The coordinator is somebody that checks that all the little tasks in the infographics project works well, that the job is going well, and even it can be the person that interacts with the teacher and manages to make the teacher aware that the team is working okay. Another role could be the supervisor. You could have another teacher who is the supervisor and is the one that observes that the team abides to the rules. The rules might even be set in advance by themselves. You don't have to set the rules. I mean, exactly in the same way as you don't have to set up the teams if you don't want to, and that's the first step to flipping. Let students set up their own teams. Let students set up their own rules. If they feel the rules of the work are theirs, they are bound to abide to the rules much better than if you, as a teacher, set the rules for them. Something else that you can ask them too is establish a contract, a statement of commitment by which the whole team commits to abide to the rules as well. And there, the supervisor has a role to play because he must make sure that everybody in the team is committing to their own role, and it must also be the one that maybe saves the ongoing work, so making sure that nothing is lost, that all the resources are in place, that everything is ready for the final outcome, and to have fluent development of the work. Then we may have another role. Of course, you can adapt all these roles and all these management of teams depending on how many members of a team you're making. But if we stick to a 4-team member, we've got a coordinator, we've got a supervisor. We can have a secretary in the team as well, and that person should be the one that takes notes, that makes a record of all the workflow, all the different little actions that designing an infographic and making a project around the design of an infographic takes. So nice tracking system, nice team management record, ticking everything that is being done, having a record of what is pending. For example, that could be the task of the secretary. Also, he must check that all this is being done, and he can remind the rest of the team members that this pending action is still there, or that they are going behind, or that they are going ahead in the project, for instance. And finally, the other role that I usually organize in the teams is the speaker. Okay, the speaker is the person in charge of asking doubts, of presenting when time comes also to present, is the one that answers questions, is the one that interacts with the teacher as well, and says, well, we are having trouble here, we are having issues here, or everything is going perfect. Okay, so it would be like a bit of a leader, but also somebody that has language skills, communication skills, and that is going to be the one spreading the word as well. Okay, so this will be the second step. It's either guided by you or accompanying the teams to set up their own roles and start working, right? Then there comes the topic selection. How are we going to select a topic? Okay, you may come with a preset package of topics because you are interested as a teacher in your students working that, and give them to the groups, and the group select. Okay, I don't think that's very much very closely related with flipping. Okay, because then the students are not the center, the full center of learning. And when we are flipping lessons, the main aim is that they are the center. Okay, it's student-centered kind of learning. So my suggestion here is that better than you come in with a preset list of topics, you have like a brainstorming session and let them work, let them decide on which topics they are going to work. Because exactly in the same way as they are going to make their rules theirs, and they are going to feel their rules are theirs, and they are going to abide better to the rules, if they decide on which topic they want to work, everything is going to be more motivating. They are going to feel more enthusiastic. They're going to feel more encouraged, and they're going to feel that the topic is theirs, the work is theirs, the outcome is going to be much better. Okay, and once we have done all that, then we come to the design, and there is when you can provide them with a set of tools, online tools, free, open, that they can use, and they are easy to work with. And of course, there is a bunch of different things that you can work with infographics, from primary education and even kindergarten up to higher education even. I mean, you can use infographics to explain all sorts of different things and to have all sorts of different topics explained. For example, if you have a primary class, you can very well ask your students or have the teams designing infographics for classroom rules. that then may be printed afterwards and shared all along the classroom walls. You can also get people working on infographics about, I don't know, how to do your shoelaces, for example, for very little kids. They can create their own infographics. You can even have mixed teams and encourage the older students in a school to be mentoring younger students in the school and teach them to do everyday activities such as brushing your teeth or washing your hands before having your lunch. And in that way, when they design an infographic about that, they can go to the younger classes and share their infographics with them, and so making them play a mentoring role, right? That is something nice, because you also are encouraging personal relationships there. You are promoting an emotional link between older students and young students. Any topic really in any level that they are interested in working, it is nice. Okay, if you have a look at the link that you have there, Info Edu Graphics, you are bound to find lots and lots of examples and more proposals apart from the ones that I'm giving you here. And the very, very, very last stage in all these creation process should be sharing your results. I think it is important that we share the results. It doesn't really necessarily have to be online. I mean, if you've got underage kids, and obviously they are not going to be on social networks, they are not going to be on Twitter, they are not going to be on Facebook. You can share the results through the school web, for example, or through the classroom blog, or even if you don't have one, you can simply print the results and share them with other classes, as I've just told you. School libraries are a very good place to share infographics. For example, if you have a team of students that have just created an infographic with how to borrow a book from the school library, you can place the infographic there, and the rest of the students are going to benefit. You can go and place a Gymkhana school Gymkhana based on the infographics that the groups have designed, stick them on school walls, and invite other classes to come, view them, discover mysteries and infographics that you can easily create and augment the infographics, maybe using Aurasma or other tools, right? Exactly the same, I think, there, and that is sharing. Sorry, I've gone ahead before actually finishing my argument here. That's also sharing, okay? Lately, when we talk about sharing, we only think of social networks. So we only think of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, which is all very good. And I'm very active on social networks myself, and I foster networking with my students as well. But that doesn't mean that we must forget that there are other ways of spreading the word. I mean, simply, as I've told you, printing the outcomes and nailing them to the walls, we are sharing the works already. But sharing is important. If we do not share, what we do is invisible, okay? So I think we must share, right? And it is also promoting values when we share, which it's good to promote, right? Now, apart from educational infographics, posters and boards are also a very nice means of flipping the lesson and putting the students in the center of their own learning, right? And exactly the same as with infographics, before designing anything, we must have a bit of background and clearly have the ingredients, okay? When we are designing a poster or a digital board, like the Padlets, for example, that you have in the MOOC, that you are using to post your questions, a Padlet is an excellent tool to create a collaborative board and make people collaborate together in different ways online. But before actually using posters and using boards, to have students again sharing information, sharing knowledge, peer-to-peer learning, it is important to have very clear which ingredients a good poster should have. First of all, I think a good online poster, which might end up being printed as well, but anyway, it should be balanced, okay? Visual principles between images, texts, icons, and so forth have to be respected, and there must be a balance. We shouldn't overload a poster with lots and lots and lots of images, or the other way around. We shouldn't design a poster or a visual board of any kind full of text, and no images, okay? So the visual principles must be balanced there. Also, focus of attention, in my opinion, it should be single, okay? When we are designing a poster or when we are designing a kind of board or a mural of some kind, we want to call people's attention on something, okay? Single thing. For example, an event. We're hosting an event and we want to focus the audience's attention on that event, a concept, an idea. So the central focus of attention must be a single one, must be simple, and must call audience's attention. Right? Otherwise, we are losing track. We are losing the focus, and we are bound not to get the audience's attention. Right? Again, exactly in the same way as for infographics, the images that we use must be clear, must be simple, must be direct. Okay? Take into account that posters have to be seen from a distance. Okay? We don't want people to have to get too near to visualize the poster. Posters are seen at a distance, right? So we must be careful with the size of images, right? We have to take into account that the images are there to cause an impact on the audience, so the size has to be the right one. The visual must be motivating, meaningful, conveying the illustration of the meaning that we want our poster to pass on to the audience, and the text also must be readable, right? Also at a distance. Exactly in the same way as the images must be clear enough to be seen at a distance, the text must be readable. We don't want people to have to come too near to our poster to understand the text, right? So we must also make a difference, make a distinction between size and colors, right? What is the key, the essence of our posters, and what is secondary? So we must pay attention to that. That's also visual principles when we are designing, right? And again, exactly in the same way as authorship and license, there's infographics, we must mention the source, we must license our work so that others, when they want to use it, they know which terms they must use, and we must not forget to mention where we are gathering the information to create our poster. Because again, it is not necessary to reinvent the wheel. When there is something out there for us to use, why not reuse it? But reuse it legally. That is important, I think. That's why I always emphasize all these things in class too. Okay, and now some tips, very easy quick tips for an activity proposal, right? The source of this activity proposal is the TWIMA project. The TWIMA project is an international collaborative project for using storytelling, flipping the role of learners, and making them collaborate, internationally speaking, to come up with a mobile app to publish stories that have been compiled by different students from different parts of the world. You can follow the link in the presentation, and you will go to the site of the project. It's in the 6th cycle now, and in every cycle, this American teacher called the iPod teacher, you can follow him at Twitter, his Twitter handle is the iPod teacher, proposes a series of collaborative activities in which students do something together, maybe chain posters, maybe chained stories, but it is very nice because you have students from all levels, from all parts of the world. So those advanced students can mentor the less advanced students, and those older students can mentor the younger students. We took part in TWIMA 2 cycle. We are taking part in TWIMA 6 again, but TWIMA 2 cycle was very, very, very emotional for us because we were receiving stories from primary students from the United States and other parts of Europe too, and they were proposing text stories, and we university students, pre-service teachers, we were interpreting their stories and we were illustrating them. So when the primary kids got their illustrated stories back, those stories had another vision. So the primary students could see how their goal, how their story had transmitted something to another person in the other end of the world, and maybe what they wanted to transmit from the very beginning was not really what the receiver had interpreted, right? So in the end, with all those chain stories that started as text stories but ended up as illustrated, visual linked stories, with all that, we gathered and compiled an app. And that application for mobile devices is available at the Apple Store for free, that you can download it and visualize it in your mobile devices anytime. You just have to go to iTunes and search for the TWIMA project, The World is My Audience. And that cover that you have there in your screens, which is the cover of the app in the Apple Market, was designed by one of my students, my pre-service teacher students at university. And it was an open contest, right? That was, again, the added value, I think, for that, was that it was an open contest for all the participants in TWIMA Project Cycle 2 to develop and design a poster that then was going to be the cover of the app. And one of my students designed this World is My Audience, and she won. And of course, the prize, the reward for her was that her cover was going on to the Apple Market. And that was amazing for her. She was over the moon. Well, the whole class, we were all over the moon, right? So that's one tip for you. Become part of TWIMA project or any other collaborative project in which the design of posters is involved, the design of infographics is involved. And again, very, very easy tips to carry out an activity in class is brainstorming, what you want to do, what you want to design, what kind of poster you want to design, and use the poster as a tool to brainstorm, exactly as you've done before you came to the webinar today. Another possibility for using educational posters and boards in class is storytelling, this chain the stories. You can, we've also done that in a storytelling course that we've taught online at the Ministry of Education in Spain. We have started a Padlet with the beginning of a story. And then every participant had to come up with the next chunk in the story, chaining it to the previous chunk. So in the end, we started with just a very little paragraph, but we ended up with a full collaborative story already placed and located in a poster, in a board, in Padlet. That was very nice as well, because also Padlet gives you the chance to print in a PDF format all the chained stories and publish them in other digital means such as blogs or webs or whatever. It is also nice to use educational posters for a self-assessment and peer-to-peer evaluation. You can set up posters, and you can ask your students to revise their peers' outcomes, and also once they receive their peers' evaluation, they can come up with some self-reflection, self-evaluation, and make their outcome richer. Another tip for easy, quick lesson proposal or very small activity proposal is to create a common bank of knowledge. You can maybe set up a Pinterest board, for example, collaborative Pinterest board, invite your students and have them pinning educational posters that convey some meaning for them. For example, I usually get my students add posters on their expectations about the course. Illustrate in 3 tips what you expect of this course. So they create a poster and they pin it on a Pinterest board. I know I'm running out of time, but I will give you just a list there of possible web tools online, free to have your students creating collaboratively. Easily, Piktochart, Canva is very nice. S'more is very nice. It's free, up to 10 s'mores flyers, I think, and you can give them lots and lots and lots of potential there. I can place maybe in the chat, if we have time, I can place some links for you.
Yes, please, Maria Jesus, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, I will. You've got some outcomes there that they are ready to use, and I'll try and place some samples, like for example, one that we've got with Padlet.com. Let's see if I'm doing it okay. There, I will write it for you. There you go. Is there? I think I'm writing it okay. I don't know. Yes, I think there you have. That's an example, for example, of a Padlet that we used for brainstorming, right? Then I can show you another example also with Padlet. If it's not working, or I've made some misprint, sorry.
It's not working, I think.
Not working, right? Okay.
But you can share it if you want on the Padlet that we created for asking you questions as well. So it's fine. No worries.
Okay. Okay. Right. I don't know if I'm doing. Maybe I'm. But I can leave them to you on the Padlet afterwards. Okay. I just wanted to give you some sample of chained stories that we did some years ago there as well. I don't know if that one is correct, but okay. But anyway, you've got lots and lots of examples there as well. That is a board that collaborative board that I was mentioning you at the beginning. There, infographics for CLIL e-publications. This is a collaborative board that some of my students created for explaining CLIL to their own students, and then we curated them there. So if you follow me on Pinterest, I'm easy to find. And then this is another example with a SMORE, in which we created a poster to gather some comics that teachers created about their own subjects. Okay, comic is another nice way to visualize and to flip lessons, right? And I don't want to go with more because I think you need to ask questions, don't you? Yes.
They do. They have.
So there you go.
So many questions. Thank you, Maria Jesus, for a really great presentation. You gave them a lot of interesting resources, tools, and some examples that they can do in the classroom. We have a few questions. We just try to gather them in under a common topic because we don't have time for all of them. So there has been a lot of discussion in the chat. They were commenting on the problems that teachers usually have in the classroom, like for instance that teachers may not be prepared. They also have some privacy issues or technical problems like internet connection not working properly or crashing. And also the lack of time, which is, as you know perfectly, a big issue for all of the teachers.
Yeah, but you don't have to worry about that. I mean, well, of course you do have to worry about that. But I mean, lack of training to use these tools. These tools are friendly. I mean, they are so easy. Just next. And you must remember that your students are bound to be more technically competent in this sense. I mean, lots of students know more than we do when using these tools. So we should take advantage of that. We should see that as an opportunity. Let them teach us. That's not a problem because they are bound to understand how the tool works better than you, okay? For sure. So take advantage of that. Now, time. Nobody is going to set you time for this. I mean, you can do this as an activity of 5-minute activity, 1-hour activity, a whole term lesson, a fortnight lesson, a week lesson, but nobody is going to tell you you've got to finish this in 2 days, okay? Let them, take it easy and let them work. Yeah, internet connection is a problem. Yes, that's true. We cannot help it. I cannot do much about that. I haven't got the magic solution for that. But what about if students don't have a computer at home? Well, you don't have to tell them to use a computer at home. Use the computers at school. Somebody's asking me that. This is no homework. This is something that we can do little by little in class. And the tips that I'm giving you here are tips to do in an hour. I mean, you can set everything in an hour, and they just do it. I mean, they are very clever. But we don't want a school at home. Yes, of course, nobody wants a school at home.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, most of the teachers are always worried because they say we know less than our students without realizing that. Yeah, that's definitely an opportunity for them to learn a little bit more from them.
You don't have to create the lesson; they create the lesson for you.
So it's even better. You save time.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Another question coming from Maria Grazia because she was worried because she says that social networks are not suitable for primary school pupils and
Exactly.
secondary level. They cannot create account on Facebook up to 14 years,
Exactly.
etc.
That's why I was telling you that when I say sharing results, I don't mean that you have to go on Twitter, Facebook, you name it. You can share your results at your own school. You can even share your results with other schools using safe platforms of collaboration such as eTwinning that is safe and that is very good for collaborating. But you can share your results simply printing your posters, your infographics, and inviting other members of the school community to come and do something with it, like a web quest, a gymkhana, a treasure hunt. That's a very nice school activity that gathers people together, and you share your outcomes that way. You can even go to the town hall and share your results there. You can hold an event for parents and invite them to see what their children have done. That's also sharing, and that does not involve social networks.
Thank you, Maria Jesus. And how could you use flipped classroom in primary school?
That's flip.
Could you use the same?
Yeah, this is flipping already. I mean, when you come and you put your students in the center of learning and they become the main role of the protagonists of their own learning, you are already flipping the lesson. I think we've got this misunderstanding that flipping classroom or flipping a lesson consists of recording a video previously and asking your students to view it before they come to class. For me, that's not flipping a lesson. For me, that's setting homework before coming to school. And that's not really what we should be aiming at. When I talk about flipping lessons, I talk about flipping roles. So when I stop being the teacher and I start being the mentor and I start guiding my students and I foster autonomous learning, I'm flipping.
Definitely.
And that's for all levels.
Different levels, yeah, right. You mentioned, you were talking about platforms, and Ariana from Italy is asking, what's your favorite platform for a flipped classroom, if any?
I don't have favorite platforms. I try all of them. I use as many as I can depending on my goals. What I like every time is that the platform, the service, the tool, the means, whatever, matches my teaching goals and matches my students' learning needs. But I don't really have favorite platforms because I'm not really interested in tools and platforms. What I want is use those platforms and those services effectively enough so that the technology betters their learning.
Definitely. And how do you have any advice, or would you say something about how to prepare the students for this kind of learning?
Patience.
Patience.
Yes, patience. It is time-consuming. At the beginning, they are not going to understand. Even if you give them the overall picture, they might feel that they are not learning enough, and not only students, but parents. But in the end, when they see the workflow and they see the outcome, they do realize that they've learned so much, and the competencies that they've developed and they acquired are so lifelong learning that they are prepared already. But patience, you've got to give it time. Give it time.
Okay, thank you. And there was also a question of in the chat from Maria Luisa. I think not in the chat, sorry, in the Padlet. I think Maria Luisa was asking how long have you been training before experimenting this method in your classes? Yeah, you prepare before you learn as you were teaching?
You mean training myself?
Yes.
I don't know. I wouldn't be able to tell you that. I mean, I I've been learning as I've been training myself. I mean, I learn with the students every day, and I think that that's the best training a teacher can have continuously. I mean, but I wouldn't be able to say like on these days I thought I was prepared to teach or to flip teaching. Um, I wouldn't have that exact breakthrough in my teaching life when all of a sudden I thought I was prepared. No, I've been learning with them.
And that's the most important thing, I think, learning with them as well, no? Not only teaching, but also
Yeah,
learning.
yeah, they teach me quite a lot. I mean, the students,
And I'm sure they're
I think,
happy to
yeah.
teach as well, right? To be like the center of the have the protagonist somehow.
Well, that is the key. That otherwise, you do not make autonomous learners. If you do not let them make mistakes, it's not a problem if they make a mistake. It's not a problem at all if you make a mistake, because if one doesn't make mistakes, one is not bound to learn.
Definitely. We have, well, Sulmira Magalhães was asking if you could show us an example of a good infographic, but I don't know if you have them there. So in any case, if you want to share something, we can always go back to the Padlet and do it there.
I think I can.
If you have something, if not, it's not a problem because we can always post them on
I
the.
think I can give you the link to the project, Info EduGraphics, which is in Spanish, but again,
There,
you can
then
translate
yeah,
it.
no worries because Sergio already shared
Okay.
the link
Okay.
before, so we covered.
Somebody's asking what is the connection with inquiry-based learning. The connection is so close. I mean, before you actually come to design, you have to investigate. You have to pose those inquiries, and people must. I mean, when you're designing an infographic, you cannot go to class and say, "Go design." But you have to be inspired first. You have to analyze other samples. So you have to make yourself questions. They will make themselves questions, and it is inquiry-based learning. So they are closely related.
Yeah. And Asun is also mentioning that probably at the final grades it's a bit difficult or hard to introduce our students to this kind of methodology because they may not be used to them, and they have to pass, the traditional state exam or something like that. What do you think?
Well, I know when we are teaching the years or the final year, and they have to go to university, for example, or they've got to pass final exams like state exams, as they say here. It's not difficult. I mean, they are still ready mentally. They are ready to have this kind of methodology. The problem is ours, that we are so pressed for time. We are so pressed for those exams because those exams are not going to ask them to produce an infographic or to produce a poster. They are going to come with a test, usually, or a multiple choice thing, or something in which they have to spit what they have been memorizing for a whole year. But mentally, they are ready. But obviously, the earlier you start, the better. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you, Maria Jesus. I think we could finish here because we are right on time. Thank you very much for this great presentation. Has been really useful, really interesting. I know the teachers will take it as an example, and I hope you give it a try, and maybe why not try to create an infographic, a poster, or any kind of example that you can think about, and also maybe share it on the Facebook group, and Maria Jesus will be happy to have a look at those, I'm sure. So thank you again, Maria Jesus. It has been a pleasure to have you here again with us. It has been great, as always. What can I say?
Thank you. Thanks.
And yeah, if you want to say something before I end up, sorry.
Well, just thank you for having me, and and thank you all for coming because it's Friday afternoon. And get in touch if you like. I'm more than willing to help and collaborate and whatever issues or doubts you have. I'm connected and I'm very easy to find on Google as well. And you have my Twitter handle there and you have my blog there. I've got a voice message mail, so if you want to leave your messages or you want to write to me, I'll be more than happy to help. No problem with that.
So you cannot run away, right? We can find you easily.
Yes, I'm easy. I'm easy.
Okay,
thanks a lot. Bye-bye
thank
now.
you, Maria Jesus, and thank you, everybody who joined us today. Again, as Maria Jesus was mentioning, it's a pleasure. We had more than 50 people joining on a Friday at 5, 6 now, which is really, really well, a good thing, actually. I have shared on the chat the link to our Teachmeet that we will be having on next week on the 14th of February. So if you want to present something, a good practice, maybe an infographic that you make after this presentation, feel free to fill in the form and you will get the chance to speak on the Teachmeet. And also, as always, stay tuned to social media channels, Facebook group, Twitter, hashtag FCS course for any kind of updates in the course. Keep up the good work. You're working so much and really well. So congratulations on both our sides, Tassos and me. And that's it. Thank you again, Maria Jesus and everybody. And have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye, you too. Bye.